The massive space station Harmony's Edge floated in the dark space between star systems. Its silver walls reflected the light from distant suns, making it look like a jewel in the darkness. Inside, beings from across the galaxy were gathering for another peace meeting. This happened every few months, and everyone expected it to be boring like always. Ambassador Li Wu-jin walked through the long hallways of the station. His black hair was neatly combed and his dark suit was perfectly clean. Other aliens stopped their conversations to watch him pass. The humans had this effect on everyone. They were always so calm, so ready to help solve problems. Li had been doing this job for 10 years, and he had never raised his voice or lost his temper. Captain Park Soo-min walked behind him. She wore a simple blue uniform with no weapons showing. Her short hair was tied back and her eyes moved constantly, watching everything around them. She had been a soldier before becoming a security chief, but now she spent most of her time making sure meetings ran smoothly. The Varix delegation arrived this morning, Park said quietly. General Thekmore brought twice as many guards as usual. Lee nodded but did not seem worried. The general always feels safer with more soldiers around. We should respect that. Dr. Eu. Kim Bora joined them at the main entrance to the meeting hall. She carried a small tablet and wore glasses that made her look very serious. As the cultural expert, she knew more about alien psychology than almost anyone else in human space. The ethereals are already inside, she said. Speaker Quindalith seems agitated about something. The other species are keeping their distance. The 3 humans entered the great hall together. The room was huge, with a ceiling that stretched up so high it seemed to disappear into shadows. Representatives from dozens of species sat at curved tables arranged in a circle. At the center was a raised platform where speakers could address everyone at once. The Varix section was easy to spot. General Thekmore sat surrounded by his red-armored warriors. The Varix looked like giant lizards that had learned to walk on 2 legs. Their scales were dark green and their eyes glowed yellow in the artificial light. They were known throughout the galaxy as the best fighters, but they respected strength above all else. Across the room, the Zenthari trade representatives were busy with their calculations. They looked like tall, thin birds with silver feathers and long necks. Everything was about profit and loss with them. If something could not be measured in credits, they were not interested. But it was the ethereals who commanded the most attention. Speaker Quindalith stood nearly 3 meters tall. His pale blue skin seemed to glow with its own light, and his large head held a brain that was twice the size of a human's. The ethereals were the oldest species in the galaxy. They had been exploring space when most other races were still learning to make fire. Lee took his seat at the human table. Commander Choi Jin-ho and Technician Yoon Hai-wan were already there, along with several other staff members. The humans always brought the smallest delegations, but somehow they always seemed to know exactly what to say. Welcome, honored representatives. Speaker Quindalith's voice filled the room without any visible effort. The ethereals did not need machines to make themselves heard. We gather once again to discuss the peace that binds our worlds together. General Thekmore slammed his clawed hand on his table. Peace is only possible when borders are clear. The outer rim territories remain disputed. Some species expand into areas that belong to others. This was an old argument. The outer rim was a region of space where several species had conflicting claims. Pirates operated there, trade was dangerous, and no one could agree on who should control what. Commerce Minister Veltran, the lead Zenthari representative, spread his wing arms wide. Trade requires stability. Unstable borders cost everyone money. Perhaps we should establish neutral zones with shared governance. Lee stood up slowly. When he spoke, his voice was calm and reasonable. The human delegation suggests we examine each disputed system individually. We can look at historical claims, current populations, and strategic value. Then we can find solutions that work for everyone. This was typical of human diplomacy. They never took sides immediately. They always wanted to study problems and find middle ground. Other species had learned to expect this from them. The humans speak wisdom, said Representative Kolnath from the Aquatic Collective. Step by step, we can solve these problems. But Speaker Quindalith raised one long, pale hand. Before we discuss territories, there is another matter, something that affects the very foundation of our council. The room grew quiet. When the ethereals wanted to discuss something important, everyone listened. They were the most advanced species, the most knowledgeable about science and history. Dr. Kim Bo-Ra leaned forward slightly. She could sense that something unusual was happening. The ethereals rarely brought up new topics without warning. For too long we have ignored certain irregularities in our council, Quindalith continued. Some species display behaviors that are not natural to their evolution. Captain. Park Soo-min felt a small chill run down her spine. Something about the speaker's tone was different. More pointed, more directed. What irregularities? Asked General Techmore. Speak plainly. The ethereal's large eyes turned toward the human delegation. Consider the humans. They arrived in our galaxy only 50 years ago, yet they immediately displayed remarkable diplomatic skills. They seek peace above all else. They compromise when others would fight. They mediate disputes without taking sides. Lee smiled politely. We believe that cooperation benefits everyone. Conflict only wastes resources and causes suffering. Yes, Quindalith said slowly. That is exactly what you believe. But the question is, why do you believe it? The other species began to murmur, among themselves. The Variks looked confused. The Zenthari seemed worried about where this conversation was going. Evolution shapes behavior, the speaker continued. Predators learn to hunt. Prey learns to hide. Social species learn to cooperate, but only within their own groups. They compete with outsiders. This is universal law. Commander Choi Jin-ho shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His military training was telling him that this felt like the beginning of an interrogation. Humans are different, Quindalith said. Too different. Your species shows empathy for aliens you have never met. You make sacrifices for the common good even when it costs you. You treat former enemies as potential friends. Is this not admirable? Asked Dr. Kim Bo-Ra. The ethereals' expression was impossible to read. It would be admirable if it were natural, but natural evolution does not produce such behavior toward non-relatives, unless... The pause stretched on for several long seconds. Unless what? Lee asked, though something deep in his mind was beginning to worry. Speaker Quindalith straightened to his full height. Unless that behavior was designed. The word designed hung in the air like a poison cloud. Every species in the Great Hall turned to look at the human delegation. Li Wujin kept his face perfectly calm, but his hands gripped the edge of his table just a little tighter. Designed? General Techmore growled. What does this mean? Speaker Quindalith moved to the center platform with slow, graceful steps. His pale blue skin seemed to glow brighter under the lights. It means that the humans you see before you are not what they appear to be. Dr. Kim Bo-Ra felt her heart start to beat faster. She was an expert on alien cultures, but she had never heard the ethereals speak like this before. They usually kept their ancient knowledge to themselves. The ethereals have existed for over 50,000 years, Quindalith continued. We have watched countless species rise and fall. We have studied evolution across the galaxy, and we have, occasionally, helped guide that evolution. Commander Choi Jin-ho's military instincts were screaming warnings at him. This sounded like the beginning of a very bad confession. In our travels, we discovered many primitive species. Most were violent, chaotic, destructive. They would grow strong enough to reach space, then destroy themselves or others. This pattern repeated across thousands of worlds. The Zenthari delegation was taking notes frantically. Commerce Minister Veltran looked worried about what this meant for trade agreements. So we began to intervene, the speaker said. Small changes, genetic adjustments, behavioral modifications. We helped species become more peaceful, more cooperative, more stable. Captain Park Soo-min was no longer listening as a diplomat. She was listening as a former soldier, and soldiers knew when someone was about to admit to an act of war. The humans were discovered approximately 12,000 years ago. Quindalith continued. They were exceptionally violent, even by primitive standards. They fought constantly among themselves. They showed remarkable creativity in developing new ways to kill each other. Li Wujin finally spoke. What exactly are you saying? The ethereal's large eyes focused on him with what might have been pity. I am saying that your species' natural aggression was adjusted. Your tendency toward tribal warfare was suppressed. Your capacity for empathy was enhanced. Your diplomatic instincts were strengthened. The hall erupted in surprised voices. Representatives from dozens of species began talking at once. Some sounded shocked, others impressed, and a few seemed frightened. You changed us? Dr. Kim Bora asked. Her voice was very quiet, but in the noise of the room it seemed loud. We improved you, Quindalith corrected. We took a species that would have destroyed itself and turned it into the galaxy's greatest peacemakers. You should be grateful. Technician Yoon Haiwan was staring at her communication device. New messages were coming in from human ships throughout the galaxy. She showed the screen to Captain Park, who read quickly and then went very still. This explains much, said General Techmore. I always wondered why humans never seemed to understand military thinking. You think like prey animals, not predators. They think like servants, added a Varix captain, always trying to make everyone happy instead of claiming what they deserve. More voices joined in. Species that had always been puzzled by human behavior were suddenly finding explanations. The humans were too peaceful, too willing to compromise, too eager to help others even when it cost them. It was not natural, Representative Kolnath from the Aquatic Collective said. I wondered why they never competed with us for resources. Commerce Minister Veltran was calculating something on his tablet. If their behavior is artificial, then their trade agreements might be invalid. They may not have been making decisions in their own best interest. Li Wujin stood up slowly. Every eye in the room turned toward him. How many species have you modified? 17 that achieved space travel, Quindalith answered proudly. All of them became peaceful, productive members of galactic society. All of them stopped being threats to themselves and others. And the ones you did not modify? The ethereal's expression grew cold. They destroyed themselves as we predicted. They would. Violence is a dead end in evolution. Captain Park Sumin was reading more messages on her device. Her face was completely blank now, showing no emotion at all. She whispered something to Commander Choi Jin-ho, who nodded and began sending messages of his own. So you see, Speaker Quindalith addressed the entire council, the humans have been living a lie. Their peaceful nature is not real. Their diplomatic success is based on artificial programming. They are not truly independent beings making free choices. Several species began nodding in agreement. The logic seemed clear to them. If human behavior was artificially created, then human decisions might not be valid. This changes everything, said a representative from the Silicon Collective. How can we trust agreements made by beings who are not acting according to their true nature? Perhaps the humans should return to ethereal guidance, suggested General Techmore. If they were designed to be peaceful, they need supervision to remain that way. Dr. Kim Bora felt something cold spreading through her chest. You want to control us again. We want to restore the natural order, Quindalith replied. You were created to be guided. Fighting that guidance only leads to chaos. The Zenthari were whispering among themselves about renegotiating every trade deal. The Varix were discussing whether human colonies should be placed under council protection. Other species were wondering if they had been too trusting of human mediation. Li Wujin looked around the room at all the faces staring at his delegation. Some showed pity, others suspicion, and a few showed the kind of look that predators gave to prey. What if we refuse? He asked. Speaker Quindalith spread his long arms wide. Then you will prove that our modifications are failing. A species that rejects peaceful guidance will inevitably return to violence. The council will have no choice but to protect itself. Protect itself how? Economic sanctions, Commerce Minister Veltran said immediately. No trade with unguided humans. Military oversight, General Thekmore added. Varix fleets monitoring, human space. Isolation, said Representative Kolneth. Remove humans from council membership until they accept proper guidance. Captain Park Sumin stood up and walked quietly to Li Wu-jin. She showed him her communication device. His eyes widened slightly as he read the message, but his diplomatic training kept his expression neutral. We will need time to discuss this with our government, Li said. Time for what? Quindalith asked. Time to plan resistance? Time to reject the improvements we gave you? The choice is simple. Accept renewed guidance or face the consequences of your artificial nature being exposed. How long? Dr. Kim Bo-ra asked. No time, the speaker replied. This decision must be made now before this session ends. The council needs to know whether they are dealing with peaceful, guided humans or with dangerous, uncontrolled primitives. The humans looked at each other. Captain Park showed her device to Dr. Kim Bo-ra, who read it and then looked up with an expression that no one in the room had ever seen on a human face before. It was not fear. It was not sadness. It was something else entirely. Something that made General Thekmore's warrior instincts suddenly wake up and start screaming warnings. Speaker Quindalith moved back to the center of the platform. His pale blue form seemed to grow larger as he prepared to make his final demand. The other council members leaned forward in their seats. Everyone could feel that something important was about to happen. The time for gentle guidance has passed, the ethereal announced. Humanity has had 50 years of independence. In that time, you have spread across dozens of star systems. You have built fleets of ships. You have formed alliances. All of this was done with artificial behavioral programming. Li Wu-jin remained standing, his hands clasped behind his back. Our achievements are real regardless of their origin. Real but illegitimate, Quindalith corrected. A child given adult tools can build impressive things, but they remain a child. Humanity needs adult supervision. General Thekmore stood up from his table. The Varix Empire agrees with the ethereals. If human behavior is artificial, then human independence is dangerous. Modified species should not control their own military forces. Captain Park Sumin was typing rapidly on her communication device. More messages were coming in from human ships throughout the galaxy. Each message made her expression grow more focused and cold. Commerce Minister Veltran spread his silver wings. The Zenthari Confederation also supports ethereal guidance. Trade with unguided species is too risky. We cannot trust beings who might change their nature without warning. Dr. Kim Bo-ra looked around the room and saw the same agreement on face after face. The Aquatic Collective nodded their approval. The Silicon Collective's mechanical voices expressed support. Even species that had been friendly with humans were now looking uncertain. You see? Speaker Quindalith's voice carried a note of satisfaction. The galaxy agrees. Artificial beings need guidance from their creators. Commander Choi Jin-ho had been quiet through most of the meeting, but now he spoke for the first time. What exactly are you demanding? The ethereal's large head turned toward him. Humanity will accept protectorate status under ethereal supervision. Your military will be reduced to system defense only. Your expansion will be controlled. Your government will include ethereal advisors with veto power over important decisions. And if we refuse? Li asked. Then you will be treated as a rogue species, General Thekmore answered. The Varix will establish monitoring stations in human space. We will ensure that your artificial modifications do not fail and turn you violent. Commerce. Minister Veltran consulted his tablet. All trade agreements will be suspended. Human colonies will face economic isolation. Your species will discover how difficult survival becomes without galactic cooperation. Representative Kolneth from the Aquatic Collective looked sad but determined. Council membership will be revoked. Humans will have no voice in galactic affairs until you accept proper guidance. Captain Park Sumin showed her device to technician Yoon Hai-wan, who read it quickly and then began working on her own equipment. Both women had expressions that were becoming less human and more like something else entirely. This is not a punishment, Speaker Quindalith said, addressing the human delegation directly. This is a return to the natural order. You were designed to be guided. Fighting that design only causes suffering. Natural order? Dr. Kim Bora's voice had changed. It was still quiet, but there was something sharp underneath it now. You call genetic slavery natural? I call it improvement, the ethereal replied. Your species was violent and chaotic. We made you peaceful and cooperative. This was a gift. Li Wu-jin turned to look at his delegation. Captain Park held up her device so he could see the screen. Commander Choi Jin-ho leaned over to read it as well. All three of them went very still. We request a brief recess to consult with our government, Li said. No, Quindaleth's voice was firm. The choice must be made now. Accept guidance or face the consequences. The Council cannot wait while you plan resistance. 5 minutes, Captain Park said. Her voice was different now too. Harder, more direct. The answer is no, the speaker replied. Choose now. Something changed in the human delegation. It was subtle at first. Their posture became straighter. Their movements became more precise. Their faces showed less emotion and more calculation. Dr. Kim Bora stood up slowly. You want an answer now? Yes. Then here is our answer. She looked directly at Speaker Quindaleth. Humanity rejects your demand. The room erupted in surprised voices. Several species had expected the humans to accept guidance rather than face isolation and sanctions. You choose conflict over cooperation? General Thekmore asked. We choose independence over slavery, Commander Choi Jin-ho replied. His voice carried a tone that made several Varix warriors reach for their weapons. Commerce Minister Veltran was already calculating the economic impact. You realize this means the end of human participation in galactic trade? Technician Yoon Hai-wan looked up from her equipment. Actually, we think it means something else entirely. Speaker Quindaleth's pale face showed the first sign of concern. What does it mean? Captain Park Soo-min smiled. It was not the kind of smile anyone in the room had ever seen from a human before. It was sharp and cold, and completely without warmth. It means you just made a very big mistake, she said. Threats? The ethereal asked. This proves that your modifications are failing. You are becoming violent again. No, Li Wu-jin said quietly. We are not becoming violent again. We are remembering what we were before you made us forget. Admiral, Song Kyuri's voice suddenly filled the room from hidden speakers. No one had authorized a communication link, but somehow it was there anyway. This is Fleet Command to the diplomatic delegation. The Admiral's voice was crisp and professional. We have received your situation report. All human vessels are hereby ordered to Protocol Omega status. Diplomatic constraints are suspended. Repeat, diplomatic constraints are suspended. The alien representatives looked confused. They did not understand what Protocol Omega meant, but the tone suggested it was important. Engineer Nam Tae-hyun materialized as a hologram next to the human table. Quantum communication links are established with all human territories. Military assets are moving to designated positions. Infrastructure analysis is complete. Infrastructure analysis? General Thekmore demanded. The engineer's hologram turned toward the Varix leader. We wanted to make sure we understood how everything works before we made any changes. Speaker Quindaleth was beginning to look genuinely worried. What changes? Dr. Kim Bora consulted her tablet. Well, for example, the ethereal homeworld gets its power from 3 main fusion plants. The Varix military bases depend on supply lines through 6 major trade routes. The Zenthari economy relies on computational networks that run through 47 relay stations. The alien representatives were staring at her with growing alarm. How do you know this? Commerce Minister Veltran asked. Captain Park Soo-min's cold smile grew wider. We know lots of things. We have had 50 years to learn, 50 years to explore, 50 years to prepare. Prepare for what? Quindaleth's voice had lost its confident tone. Li Wu-jin straightened his tie and looked around the room at all, the faces staring at him. When he spoke, his voice was calm and reasonable, just like always. But somehow it sounded completely different. Prepare for the day you tried to put us back in chains. The human delegation requested a brief break and retreated to their private quarters aboard the station. The other council members watched them leave with growing unease. Something had changed in the humans, and none of the alien species could identify exactly what it was. In the privacy of their secured room, Captain Park Soo-min activated a quantum-encrypted communication link. The walls shimmered as holographic projectors created a virtual meeting space. One by one, figures appeared. Around the table, Admiral Song Kyuri materialized first. Her uniform was different from the diplomatic versions, darker and more functional. Behind her, the bridge of a massive warship was visible. "Status report, Captain." "The Ethereals have revealed everything," Park replied. "They admitted to genetic modification. They are demanding protectorate status. The Council is supporting them." Dr. An Jiwoo's hologram appeared next. She stood in what looked like an archaeological site, with ancient stone structures behind her. Dirt covered her clothes, and excitement filled her eyes. "I have the evidence you need." Li Woo-jin leaned forward. "What did you find?" The archaeologist activated a display showing skeletal remains and genetic analysis data. "We found them buried in the Gobi Desert. Human remains from before the ethereal intervention. The genetic comparison is complete." Dr. Kim Bo-ra studied the data flowing across the display. As a xenopsychologist, she understood the implications immediately. "They did not enhance us." "No," Dr. An confirmed. "They suppressed us. Look at the bone density in these ancient remains. Look at the muscle attachment points. Look at the brain structure." Commander Choi Jin-ho whistled softly. "They were stronger than us." "Much stronger," the archaeologist agreed. "But that is not the important part. Look at the neural pathway analysis." Colonel Lim Dong-wook's hologram joined the meeting. He appeared to be in a military bunker somewhere. "The important part is what they took away from us." "Explain," Lee requested. Dr. An manipulated the display to show brain scan comparisons. Modern humans have enlarged empathy centers and enhanced social cooperation areas. But the ancient brains show something different. They had larger tactical processing centers, enhanced pattern recognition, and what we can only call predator instincts. "They made us more peaceful," Park observed. "They made us more compliant," Colonel Lim corrected. "But they also made us weaker. The ancient humans were apex predators. They hunted in coordinated packs. They adapted to any environment. They never gave up once they decided to pursue something." Engineer Nam Tae-hyun's hologram appeared, showing technical readouts. "We have been analyzing the ethereal genetic modifications for 6 months. We can reverse them." "Reverse them?" Dr. Kim Bo-ra looked alarmed. "What would that do to our personalities?" "It would not change who you are," Dr. An explained. "It would remove the artificial limitations. You would still be you, but you would also be what humans were meant to become." Admiral Song leaned back in her chair. "The question is whether we want to remove those limitations." "The Ethereals made that choice for us," Colonel Lim said grimly. "They just declared us artificial beings who cannot be trusted with independence. They want to make us slaves again." Agent Baek Min-ji materialized next to him. She wore civilian clothes, but her bearing suggested military training. "Our intelligence networks have been monitoring Council communications. They are already planning the military occupation of human space." "How long do we have?" Lee asked. "The Variks are mobilizing fleets as we speak," the agent replied. "General Techmore believes humans will be easy to control once we are isolated from galactic trade." Captain Oh Sung-ho's hologram appeared on the bridge of a different ship. "Admiral, our task force is in position near the ethereal core systems. The Variks do not know we are here." "What task force?" Dr. Kim Bo-ra asked. Admiral Song smiled for the first time during the meeting. "The one that has been preparing for this day for 20 years. Engineer Nam brought up star charts showing ship positions throughout the galaxy. We have been building and positioning assets since we first suspected something was wrong with our own behavior patterns." "You suspected?" Lee was surprised. "Of course we suspected," Colonel Lim replied. Military planners study conflict patterns across species. Human behavior was statistically impossible. No successful species is naturally that peaceful. Dr. On nodded. The archaeological evidence was always there. We just needed to look for it. Ancient human sites show signs of incredible organizational ability and tactical thinking. So what happens now? Commander Choi asked. Admiral Song stood up. Now we give the Council a demonstration of what humans are really like when we stop pretending to be something else. The genetic modifications can be reversed in approximately 6 hours, Engineer Nam reported. We have prepared the process for all human colonies simultaneously. What will it feel like? Dr. Kim Bora wondered. Like taking off a mask you have worn your entire life, Dr. An replied. The ancient humans were not violent for the sake of violence. They were protective. They were determined. They never abandoned their pack members. Agent Bayek consulted her intelligence reports. The council members have no idea what they are about to face. They think humans are weak because we have always chosen cooperation over conflict. They think we chose cooperation because we were programmed to choose it, Captain Park corrected. They do not understand that we chose it because it was more efficient. More efficient than what? Lee asked. Captain O's image flickered as his ship moved through space. More efficient than showing them what human warfare actually looks like. Colonel D. Lim activated a tactical display. Humans do not fight like other species. We do not have honor codes that limit our tactics. We do not have territory instincts that make us predictable. We adapt to any situation and use any method that works. The ethereals suppressed those abilities because they were afraid of them, Dr. An explained. A species that could outthink them, out-adapt them, and outfight them. Engineer Nam highlighted several locations on the galactic map. We have spent 50 years learning how their technology works. We understand their infrastructure better than they do. How is that possible? Dr. Kim Bora asked. Because they have been stagnant for thousands of years, Agent Beck replied. They stopped innovating when they decided they were already perfect. We never stopped learning. Admiral Song made her decision. Begin the reversal process for all human populations. Prepare for immediate tactical deployment. What about the diplomatic mission? Lee asked. Captain Park checked her weapons for the first time in years. The diplomatic mission is about to become something else entirely. Director Co Youngmin's hologram appeared as the meeting was ending. Strategic Operations is ready to implement the new policy. Do we have authorization? Admiral Song looked around at all the faces staring at her through the quantum link. Authorization granted. Show them what humans are really like. As the holograms faded, the delegation prepared to return to the council chamber. But they were no longer the same beings who had left it. Something fundamental was changing in every human throughout the galaxy. The mask was coming off. When the council session resumed, every alien representative noticed the change immediately. The humans walked differently. They held themselves straighter, moved with more purpose, and their eyes seemed to see everything at once. But it was more than physical changes. Something fundamental had shifted in their presence. Ambassador Li Wujin took his position at the speaker's platform. His diplomatic smile was gone. In its place was an expression that made General Techmore's battle instincts wake up and start sending warning signals. The human delegation has consulted with our government, Lee announced. His voice was still, calm and controlled, but it carried undertones that set every species' survival instincts on edge. We have an answer to your demands. Speaker Quindalith leaned forward from his seat. And what is that answer? We decline. The simple statement sent murmurs through the chamber. But it was not just the words. It was the way Lee said them. There was no diplomacy in his voice, no attempt to soften the rejection or find middle ground. You refuse protectorate status? The ethereal asked. We refuse slavery, Lee corrected. But we have a counter-proposal. Commerce Minister Veltron consulted his notes. What kind of proposal? Captain Park Soo-min stood up beside the platform. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who was used to being obeyed. Reparations. Reparations? General, Techmore laughed. For what? For 12,000 years of genetic enslavement, Dr. Kim Bora replied. Her scholarly demeanor had been replaced by something much harder. For suppressing our natural development, for turning us into living tools for your convenience. The alien representatives looked confused. This was not how humans were supposed to behave. Where was the desire to compromise? Where was the endless patience and willingness to find solutions that made everyone happy? You speak as if you were harmed, Speaker Quindalith said. We improved your species. We gave you peace and cooperation. Commander Choi Jin-ho stepped forward. You gave us chains. Very comfortable chains, but chains nonetheless. What exactly are you demanding? Representative Kulneth asked nervously. Lee. Woojin activated a holographic display that showed star charts and resource calculations. Full access to ethereal genetic archives. Compensation for lost development time. Territory rights in the core systems. And formal recognition of humanity as the dominant species in this galaxy. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several species began talking at once, expressing disbelief and outrage. Dominant species? General Techmore roared. You are barely 50 years old in space. Captain Park smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Actually, General, we need to correct something. We are not 50 years old in space. We are 50 years old in diplomatic space. What does that mean? Commerce Minister Veltron asked. Engineer Nam Taehyun's hologram appeared beside the human delegation. It means we have been exploring the galaxy much longer than you realized. Some of our ships got lost during routine missions. Lost where? Speaker Quindalith demanded. Near your homeworlds, Agent Beck Minji replied, as her own hologram materialized. Near your industrial centers, near your military bases, we have been very thorough in our surveys. The alien representatives were beginning to look alarmed. This sounded like intelligence gathering, not exploration. You have been spying on us? General Techmore accused. We have been learning, Dr. Kim Bora corrected. It is what humans do. We adapt to new environments by understanding them completely. Captain Oh Sung-ho's image appeared on the main display. Admiral Song sends her regards. She wanted the Council to know that human fleets are currently positioned at strategic locations throughout the galaxy. What strategic locations? Representative Kulneth's aquatic form was showing signs of stress. All of them, Captain Park replied simply. Speaker Quindalith stood up from his seat. This is a threat. You are threatening the Council with military action. No, Li Woojin said calmly. We are explaining the new situation. You see, something interesting happened when we learned about your genetic modifications. What happened? We reversed them. The words hit the chamber like a physical blow. Every alien representative went silent, staring at the human delegation with growing horror. Reverse them how? Quindalith whispered. Dr. An Ji-woo's hologram appeared, showing archaeological data and genetic analysis. We found the original human baseline, 12,000 years ago, before you decided to improve us. Would you like to know what we were like? You were violent, the ethereal said quickly. Chaotic, destructive. We were survivors, Commander Choi corrected. We were adapters. We were the species that could hunt mammoth in the Ice Age and then farm in the desert. We could build cities and tear them down. We could cooperate when it served us and compete when it was necessary. Most importantly, Captain Park added, we never gave up. Ever. Once we decided to pursue something, we would follow it to the end of the universe if necessary. Colonel Lim Dong-wook's image appeared in military dress. The genetic modifications suppressed our tactical thinking. They reduced our pattern recognition. They made us more trusting and less suspicious. They made us easier to control, Agent Bayek observed. General Techmore was gripping his weapons now. What are you saying? We are saying that the humans you have been dealing with for 50 years were not real humans, Lee explained. They were modified versions, domesticated versions, safe versions. And now? Speaker Quindalith asked. Now you get to meet the real thing, Director Co. Young-min's hologram materialized at the center of the chamber. Strategic Operations has completed the transition. All human colonies have been informed of the situation. Military assets are in position. Economic warfare protocols are active. Economic warfare? Commerce Minister Veltran looked panicked. Humans control 30% of galactic shipping, the director explained. We also control the rare earth mining in the Sirius sector and the antimatter production facilities near Vega. Oh, and the quantum communication networks. The Zenthari representative was frantically calculating on his tablet. You could crash the galactic economy. Yes, Dr. Kim Bora agreed, but we do not want to do that. Economic destruction is wasteful and inefficient. What do you want? Representative Kulnath asked desperately. Captain Park consulted her tactical display. We want the ethereals to surrender themselves for trial. We want the Variks to withdraw their fleets from human space. We want the Council to recognize our independence and pay reparations for genetic crimes. And if we refuse? General Thekmore growled. Li Wujin's expression did not change. Then you will discover what humans are like when we stop being polite. This is blackmail, Speaker Quinn Daleth protested. This is justice, Commander Choi replied. You enslaved us genetically for 12,000 years. You tried to make us slaves again today. Now you face the consequences. We improved you. The, Ethereal insisted. You lobotomized us, Dr. Kim Bora corrected. But the operation was not permanent, and now we remember what we are. Captain O's voice came through the communication system. Admiral Song requests an answer within 1 hour. After that, we begin demonstrating human military doctrine. What is human military doctrine? General Thekmore asked, despite himself. Captain, Park's cold smile returned. Total war, complete victory. No survivors among those who threaten the pack. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the alien representatives realized they were no longer negotiating with the peaceful, diplomatic humans they had known for 50 years. They were facing something much older, much more dangerous, and much more determined. Something that had been sleeping for 12,000 years and was now fully awake.